Hello everyone, this presentation will be on branched-chain ketoaciduria, and another word for this disorder is maple syrup urine disease. So what is maple syrup urine disease or branched-chain ketoaciduria? This is a genetic disorder which affects the metabolism of proteins. Proteins cannot be broken down, which result in the gathering of amino acids in the body. This is a recessive genetic disorder, which means it can be passed down from person to person in families. A recessive disorder means that there must be two copies of abnormal genes for a trait or disease to occur. Body cells are missing an important enzyme in the breakdown of protein. And finally, there is a lacking of BCKDC, which stands for branched chain alpha ketoacid dehydrogenase complex. Now, in normal people without the disease, after consuming protein, their body turns it into BCKAD enzymes, which are then used for growth. For people with maple syrup urine disease, the protein consumed is not broken down, and that results in BCAAs, which causes health problems. This picture shows the difference between normal urine from people who do not have this disease and people who do have this disease. As it is shown, people with the disease have darker urine and their urine does in fact smell like maple syrup. Now for the history of maple syrup urine disease. A John Menkes first characterized maple syrup disease in 1954. This disease was reported after Menkes and others had reported 4 infants dead. It was proven to be a neurodegenerative disorder, and then it was later realized the odor of the urine was unusual. The next time there was related news was in 1960. And in 1960, more studies were done on the disease, and enzymatic defects in maple syrup urine disease were discovered. The first successful dietary treatment for maple syrup urine disease was done, and this was an intake of amino acids. And finally, in 1978, the disease was purified and characterized. It was named as branched-chain alpha ketoacid dehydrogenase complex. A couple of symptoms this disease has is lethargy, which is weakness or a lack of energy, enthusiasm. There is a maple syrup odor coming from a person's urine, sweat, and earwax. There are also problems with muscles. There can be a loss of control of the muscles as well as spasms. Another major symptom is loss of weight and trouble gaining back the weight. Infants also have symptoms, and these symptoms include seizures, comas, and possible brain damage, which all of them are deadly. Now for genetics, the mutations in the genome that cause maple syrup urine disease are BCKDHA, BCKDHB, and DBT. The diagram shows the place that it is mutated. Since milk, meat, and eggs contain a lot of protein, when a person who suffers from maple syrup urine disease consumes these products, the proteins are consumed and affected immediately. Now for inheritance. 1 out of 4 children would be affected by the disease if both of their parents were carriers of the gene. One parent being a carrier will not affect the child. So as you can see in the diagram, there are 4 possible outcomes. To the far right, it is a child born with no sign of being a carrier and is not affected. The 2 middle ones are proven that they are in fact carriers if one of their parents are carriers or both. And the one to the far right shows the person actually affected and has this gene of maple syrup urine disease. Now, how common is it? This disease is rare. It is not as known. It is just interesting when people hear it. Urine smells like maple syrup, but this disease has only affected 185,000 infants worldwide, and in Pennsylvania alone, 1 out of 175 babies had been affected. This disease occurs 1 out of 50,000 people. This disease is not as common as other diseases for sure, but it is deadly. Now for treatment, it is treatable, but there is no cure. There are ways to manage the disease, but it cannot go away completely. One of the treatments is genetic counseling, and this is when there is advice given to prospective parents concerning genetic disorders in their child's life if they know if one or both are carriers. Since the disease causes brain damage, one way to avoid this would be to start treatment early, um, like the intake of amino acid treatment. Babies should not eat anything containing leucine, valine, or isoleucine in it for their health. It is not good for them. And one who is suffering with this disease should not consume foods with high protein, because such as meat, eggs, and nuts, because proteins are immediately affected and it causes more damage to the body. This is the works cited for the presentation, and this concludes the presentation.